Did you know that wonders so strange they seem plucked from a dream, or a nightmare, blossom in Asia? From giant flowers that smell of rotten flesh to living jewels that glow an impossible blue. Today, you'll discover 15 flowers so beautiful and rare, it's hard to believe they exist. Get ready, because what you're about to see will change the way you look at nature forever. 1. Sacred lotus, Nelumbo nucifera. In the heart of Asia, where the water is often covered in mud and shadow, a flower emerges that defies the logic of nature, the sacred lotus. Its petals, soft as silk and luminous as the dawn, rise through murky ponds without ever getting dirty. This phenomenon has fascinated scientists for centuries because the lotus's surface is so hydrophobic that water droplets roll right off, carrying any impurities with them. Beyond its biological perfection, the sacred lotus has become a spiritual symbol of the highest order. In India and China, it represents purity, rebirth, and the soul's capacity to rise above difficulties. It's no coincidence that gods and sages in ancient carvings are shown sitting on its flowers, as if the lotus were a throne connecting the divine with the human. Moreover, the longevity of the lotus is also surprising. Seeds over 1,000 years old have been found capable of germinating, as if time hadn't touched them. This fact places the lotus in a privileged position among plant species, as it embodies the resilience of life itself. Its beauty has also transcended into art and culture. In the architecture of Buddhist temples, in Chinese calligraphy, or even in contemporary tattoos, the sacred lotus continues to transmit a universal message. True greatness is not measured by where you come from, but by the strength with which you bloom, despite adversity. In short, the lotus is not just a flower, it is a mirror of the human condition. Because just as it rises above the murky waters, we too can find a way to open our petals, even in the darkest moments. 2. Cherry blossom, Sakura prunus cerulata. Just as the lotus speaks to us of purity and resilience, the cherry blossom reminds us of the beauty of the ephemeral. Every spring, Japan transforms into a pink ocean when thousands of sakura burst forth in unison, painting mountains, streets, and temples with a delicate glow that lasts just a few days. This brevity is not a simple aesthetic detail. It is the essence of its cultural significance. In Japanese tradition, the sakura embodies the idea of mono no aware, an expression that could be translated as the melancholy of transience. To watch the petals fall gently to the ground is to contemplate the passage of time, the fleetingness of life, and the certainty that every beautiful moment must be cherished before it vanishes. However, beyond the poetry, the sakura spectacle has also become a social phenomenon. Millions of people participate every year in hanami, the custom of gathering under the blooming trees to share food, drink, and conversation, while the branches are covered in pale pinks and luminous whites. Even international tourism bows to this event. Flights, hotels, and tours are planned to the millimeter to coincide with the brief blooming window. On top of that, cherry blossoms have inspired arts as diverse as painting, literature, cinema, and even gastronomy. From centuries-old haikus to seasonal pink-dyed sweets, the mark of the sakura runs through every corner of Japanese culture. Thus, while the lotus teaches us to rise above adversity, the cherry blossom invites us to accept that life is fragile and beautiful precisely because it doesn't last forever. 3. Corpse flower, Amorphophallus titanum. If the cherry blossom speaks to us of delicacy and transience, the next protagonist surprises us with a brutal contrast. The feared and fascinating corpse flower. Native to the Sumatran jungles, this species breaks all molds of what we understand as natural beauty. For starters, its size is enormous. It can exceed 3 meters in height, making it one of the largest flowers on the planet. However, its rarity is not only in its dimensions, but also in the mystery of its bloom. It can take up to 10 years to open, and when it does, it barely remains in its full splendor for 2 or 3 days. Now, what is most striking is its smell. Far from giving off a pleasant perfume, the corpse flower emits an intense stench of rotten meat. This mechanism has a biological purpose: to attract flies and carrion beetles, which act as pollinators. It's a reminder that nature is not always governed by our criteria of beauty, but by the relentless logic of survival. Nevertheless, despite its bad smell, each bloom becomes a media spectacle. Botanical gardens around the world receive visitors who wait for hours, or even days, to witness this scarce event. It is a phenomenon that mixes science, curiosity, and a touch of the morbid, admiring something that impresses and repels at the same time. Consequently, the corpse flower holds a unique place in the botanical imagination. It demonstrates that nature not only creates fragile delicacies like the sakura, or eternal symbols like the lotus, but also strange, almost monstrous monuments that defy our perception of what a flower can be. 4. Kinabalu gold orchid, Paphiopedilum rothschildianum. After the monumental rarity of the corpse flower, nature leads us to a different terrain, where elegance and exclusivity prevail. The Kinabalu gold orchid. This botanical jewel grows only on the slopes of Mount Kinabalu, on the island of Borneo, and is so scarce that it has become one of the most coveted and expensive flowers on the planet. Unlike the corpse flower, which impresses with its size and stench, the gold orchid fascinates with its refinement. Its elongated petals, with red and gold stripes, look as if painted with an artist's precision, and its elegant arrangement makes it seem like a winged creature suspended in the air. However, contemplating it is no easy task. It can take more than 15 years to bloom, which further increases its mystery. Furthermore, its rarity has fueled a kind of modern myth. On the black market, a single specimen can reach exorbitant prices, making it a target for collectors and traffickers. For this reason, its illegal collection is severely penalized, and only a privileged few, under strict protection, can admire it in its natural habitat. Beyond luxury and speculation, the Kinabalu gold orchid represents the fragility of ecosystems. It lives only in a very specific environment, at specific altitudes, and with humidity conditions almost impossible to replicate. Any alteration of the habitat puts its existence at risk, reminding us that behind every rare flower lies an ecological balance that we must respect. Thus, if the lotus speaks to us of purity, the sakura of fleetingness, and the corpse flower of the bizarre, the gold orchid becomes the emblem of natural exclusivity, a hidden treasure that reveals how capricious and sophisticated life can be in its quest for diversification. 5. Jade vine, Strongylodon macrobotries. After the almost inaccessible exclusivity of the Kinabalu gold orchid, a flower appears that looks like it came straight out of a treasure chest, the jade vine. Native to the Philippines, this plant marvel hangs in long, bright clusters, with turquoise and emerald green tones that look like precious stones suspended from a vine. Its beauty is so hypnotic that many describe it as Asia's living jewel. The most surprising thing is that its color is uncommon in the plant kingdom. While most flowers are dyed red, pink, or yellow, the jade vine exhibits a blue-green hue that defies nature's usual pigments. This chromatic rarity is due to the unique combination of flavonoids in its petals, responsible for that almost unreal appearance. It doesn't just dazzle humans either. Its curved shape is reminiscent of a claw, and is perfect for bats, its main pollinators, to hang from and feed on its nectar. It is a brilliant example of coevolution. The flower and the animal have molded their characteristics over millions of years to depend on each other. However, like many natural jewels, the jade vine faces a fragile destiny. Deforestation in the Philippines has drastically reduced its habitat, and today it is considered a vulnerable species. Therefore, seeing it in its original environment is a privilege few have had, and botanical gardens around the world try to preserve it as a living testimony to Asian biological richness. In summary, if the lotus teaches us purity, the sakura fleetingness, the corpse flower extravagance, and the gold orchid exclusivity, the jade vine reminds us that nature also knows how to play with impossible colors, as if wanting to prove that its palette has no limits. 6. Rafflesia arnoldii. After contemplating the turquoise delicacy of the jade vine, nature surprises us again with a leap towards the colossal. the Rafflesia arnoldii. Also native to Sumatra, this species holds an unparalleled record, as it is the largest individual flower in the world. It can reach over 1 meter in diameter and weigh up to 11 kilos, making it a true giant among flowers. Unlike other species, the Rafflesia has no stem, leaves, or roots. It is a parasitic plant that feeds directly from the vines it hosts, as if its only mission in life were to bloom spectacularly. And when it does, its fleshy petals, orange-red and dotted with white spots, look like fragments of an extraterrestrial organism. However, like the corpse flower, this marvel is accompanied by a less glamorous detail: its penetrating smell of decomposing meat. This strategy, far from being an unpleasant whim, serves the purpose of attracting carrion flies, which become its pollinators. Once again, biology shows us that what is repulsive to us can be vital for the survival of other species. But what is truly astonishing is the rarity of its appearance. The Rafflesia can take months to develop underground, and then blooms for only a few days before wilting without a trace. This ephemeral nature makes it a difficult spectacle to witness, even for the inhabitants of the Sumatran jungles. Thus, the Rafflesia arnoldii represents the opposite extreme of delicate and ornamental flowers. It does not seek to adorn, but to impose. It is a reminder that nature not only cultivates beauty in classic terms, but also dares to create strange, colossal, and disturbing monuments that seem to come from a planet other than our own. 7. Gloriosa superba. After the imposing gigantism of the Rafflesia arnoldii, nature offers us a much more dynamic spectacle, the Gloriosa superba. This flower, native to tropical Asia, literally looks like a living fire sprouting from the earth. Its red and yellow petals, curved backwards, are reminiscent of tongues of flame waving in the wind, as if the plant wanted to burn without ever being consumed. Besides its fiery appearance, the Gloriosa has a curious history. In many cultures, it is known as the flame lily, or glory lily, and has been used for centuries in traditional rituals and even in folk medicine. However, its beauty hides a dangerous secret. It is highly toxic. In small doses, some communities have used its extracts to treat diseases, but in larger quantities, it can be lethal. This double edge makes the Gloriosa a symbol of fascination and respect, as it embodies both the healing and destructive power of nature. Biologically, its survival strategy is also surprising. Its stems are climbing and seek support from other plants to rise towards the light, as if its own fire needed external fuel to continue burning. And once it reaches its maximum blooming point, it becomes a beacon that attracts pollinators, ensuring that its lineage does not become extinct. 8. Camellia japonica. After the living fire of the Gloriosa superba, calm returns with one of Asia's most elegant flowers, the Camellia japonica. Its rounded symmetrical petals look sculpted with an artisan's precision, and this perfection has made it an indispensable jewel in the gardens of China, Korea, and Japan. The camellia does not dazzle with extravagance, but with subtlety. In each of its hundreds of varieties, we find ranges of intense reds, pure whites, or delicate pinks that evoke serenity. Its almost geometric shape has earned it a special place in Oriental art, where it symbolizes nobility, admiration, and even eternal devotion. However, the interesting thing is that this flower is not limited to the ornamental. For centuries, its seeds have been used to extract a highly valued oil, camellia oil, which nourishes both skin and hair. In Japan, geishas applied it as a beauty secret, while in China, it was used in tea preparation and traditional medicine. Thus, the camellia unites aesthetics with practicality, demonstrating that beauty can go hand in hand with utility. On a cultural level, it has also served as a muse. From classical poems to minimalist ink paintings, the camellia has been interpreted as a symbol of refinement and balance, a reminder that greatness can be found in simplicity. In this way, if the Gloriosa burned with savage intensity, the Camellia japonica envelops us in a delicate silence, like a floral sigh that decorates winter and announces the arrival of spring. It is proof that nature not only creates grandiose spectacles, but also forms of serene perfection that inspire calm and contemplation. 9. Himalayan blue poppy, Meconopsis betanicifolia. After the serene perfection of the camellia, nature leads us to a much more inhospitable setting, the cold peaks of the Himalayas. There, between mists and icy winds, a botanical miracle blooms that seems impossible, the Himalayan blue poppy. Its color, a deep hypnotic blue, is so unusual in the plant kingdom that those who see it for the first time believe they are facing an unreal jewel embedded in the rock. The extraordinary thing about this flower lies not only in its beauty, but in its resilience. It grows in poor soils, at altitudes exceeding 3,000 meters, where oxygen is scarce and temperatures plummet. In an environment where few species manage to survive, the blue poppy opens its petals as a defiance to the ice desert, becoming a symbol of perseverance. In the tradition of Tibet and Bhutan, this flower has been considered a spiritual emblem, representing the search for the unattainable. It is no coincidence that in popular culture it is spoken of as a metaphor for an impossible dream. Beautiful, desired, yet difficult to achieve. Its mere existence reminds us that even in the toughest conditions, life finds a niche to bloom with splendor. Furthermore, its rarity has made it an object of desire among botanists and gardeners worldwide, although replicating its natural conditions is almost a feat. Trying to cultivate it outside its habitat is, in many cases, facing certain failure. 10. Nagapushba flower, Mesua feria. If the Himalayan blue poppy revealed the impossible beauty on the coldest peaks, the Nagapushba flower transports us to a world full of fragrances and legends. Native to India, this white flower gives off an intense, sweet aroma that has linked it for centuries with spirituality and myth. In ancient Hindu texts, it is mentioned as a sacred flower, closely linked to temples and religious ceremonies. Its immaculate purity symbolizes divinity, and it is not uncommon for it to appear associated with stories of gods and heroes. The word Nagapushba literally means flower of the Nagas, the mythical snakes that, according to belief, inhabit rivers and mountains protecting hidden treasures. Thus, the flower is not just a visual spectacle, but also a bridge between the natural and the mythical. But beyond tradition, the Nagapushba also has practical value. Its fragrant flowers are used to make oils and perfumes, while its extremely hard wood has been used in construction and sculptures since ancient times. This dual role, ornamental and functional, reinforces its importance in the daily life of many South Asian communities. In terms of appearance, the flower displays radiant white petals with a golden center of stamens that look like sun rays. This combination makes it a symbol of purity and prosperity, a perfect contrast to the intense blue of the Himalayan poppy. Thus, while the Himalayas offered us an almost impossible jewel, India gives us a flower that unites the earthly and the divine. The Nagapushba not only beautifies the surroundings, but also keeps alive the memory of the ancestral stories that still resonate in the heart of Asia. 11. Hong Kong orchid tree, Bauhinia blakeyana. If the Nagapushba flower led us to the realm of myths and the sacred, the Bauhinia blakeyana guides us towards a modern symbol of identity. Known as the Hong Kong flower, this species is distinguished by its purple-pink petals that seem traced with the softness of a watercolor brush. Its elegance is such that it's no surprise to see it printed on flags, coins, and official documents as the emblem of an entire city. The curious thing is that this flower is relatively young compared to other species steeped in history. It was discovered in the late 19th century near the port of Hong Kong and quickly captivated with its perfect shape and vibrant color. Unlike other wildflowers, the Bauhinia blakeyana does not have a common natural origin. It is believed to be a unique, sterile hybrid that can only reproduce through cuttings. In a way, it is an unrepeatable creation of nature, as if it were born to be exclusive. Moreover, its beauty has transcended the ornamental to become a true cultural icon. On the Hong Kong flag, the Bauhinia appears with 5 starry petals that represent unity and harmony. And in daily life, its trees beautify parks and avenues, offering an urban spectacle every spring that reminds us that nature can also merge with modernity. Its rarity as a sterile hybrid makes it even more fascinating. It cannot disperse freely or colonize new spaces, which means it depends on the human hand to perpetuate itself. In this sense, the Hong Kong flower embodies a bridge between the natural and the built, between the spontaneous and the cultivated. Thus, while the Nagapushba united the divine with the earthly, the Bauhinia blacana speaks to us of identity and belonging, reminding us that even in the most dynamic and modern cities, there is always space for a flower to represent the collective soul. 12. Red silk cotton flower, Bombax xiba. If the Bauhinia blacana stands as a modern symbol of a vibrant city, the red silk cotton flower unfolds as a natural spectacle that marks the rhythm of the seasons across much of Southeast Asia. With its large crimson petals, the Bombax xiba illuminates landscapes at the beginning of spring, dyeing hills, roads, and entire villages with a fiery red that announces the renewal of the cycle of life. The most striking thing about this species is its ability to transform an environment in a matter of days. The trees, which appear naked and silent during the winter, suddenly erupt in an explosion of color so intense that it attracts not only human eyes, but also birds, bats, and bees. Its nectar-laden flowers become a true feast for the fauna, reinforcing its crucial role within the ecosystem. Culturally, the red silk cotton flower also holds a special place. In India and China, it is associated with vitality and strength, and in some places, it is considered a symbol of bravery. Its light and resistant wood have been used in carpentry and construction, while different parts of the tree have medicinal uses in popular tradition. Visually, it is impossible to ignore. Its 5 thick, bright red petals look like suspended flames against the blue sky, creating an image that many poets and painters have immortalized. It is one of those flowers that not only beautify the environment, but transform it, turning the mundane into an extraordinary spectacle. Thus, after the refined elegance of the Bauhinia blacana, the red silk cotton flower reminds us that nature also knows how to be exuberant and energetic, deploying its chromatic force to announce that spring has arrived to stay. 13. Utan poluo. If the red silk cotton flower dazzles with its energy and chromatic intensity, the Utan poluo captivates us precisely because of the opposite: its mystery and its almost invisible smallness. This flower, associated with ancient Buddhist legends, measures barely a millimeter and blooms so discreetly that it often goes unnoticed even by the most attentive eyes. What makes it extraordinary is not its appearance, but the myth surrounding it. According to Buddhist tradition, the Utan poluo appears only once every 3,000 years as a harbinger of a transcendental spiritual event. Its rarity has enveloped it in a halo of mysticism, and even today, there are stories of monks who have found these tiny flowers on sacred statues or in temple corners, interpreting them as signs of good omen. In botanical terms, its classification still generates debate. Some scientists argue that it is not an independent species, but rather structures produced by insects. Others believe it could be a floral genus not yet formally described. This uncertainty has reinforced its enigmatic character, making it a blurry border between science and spirituality. Beyond its explanation, the truth is that the Utan poluo has transcended its tiny size to become a symbol of patience and eternity. Compared to dazzling flowers that conquer with their color or fragrance, this almost imperceptible one teaches us that greatness is not always in the visible, but in what it manages to awaken in the collective imagination. 14. Japanese chrysanthemum, Chrysanthemum morifolium. After the enigmatic Utan poluo, almost invisible to the naked eye, we encounter a flower that represents the exact opposite: visible splendor, cultivated and revered for centuries. The Japanese chrysanthemum, known as kiku in its homeland, is much more than a simple ornamental flower. It is an imperial symbol and a true living art. Its history in Japan dates back over 1,000 years when it was introduced from China and quickly adopted as an emblem of nobility and longevity. So profound is its symbolic value that the imperial family incorporated it into their crest, And even today, the so-called chrysanthemum throne refers to the Japanese monarchy. Seeing it on coins, documents, and official ceremonies is to acknowledge the cultural importance this flower has achieved. But beyond the political, the chrysanthemum is a display of botanical creativity. There are hundreds of varieties, with petals that can be short and rounded, long and curved like feathers, or in spirals that look like fireworks paused in the air. Each shape and every color, white, yellow, purple, or bicolor, has a distinct meaning, making its cultivation a true floral language. In fact, Japan has a festival dedicated exclusively to this flower, the Kikumatsuri. During this event, spectacular compositions are exhibited that showcase the skill of the cultivators, who mold the chrysanthemums as if they were living sculptures. It is an example of how nature can become art when combined with human patience and care. Thus, after the tiny Utan poluo that spoke to us of eternity, the Japanese chrysanthemum reminds us of tangible, visible, and celebrated greatness. A flower that not only adorns, but also embodies power, tradition, and beauty in its most diverse forms. 15. Tibetan cherry, Prunus ceresoides. After the Japanese chrysanthemum, a symbol of power and tradition, the Tibetan cherry offers us a poetic conclusion that connects the majesty of the mountains with the delicacy of the petals. On the slopes of the Himalayas, this flower appears in spring as a distant echo of the famous Japanese sakura, but adapted to an environment where the air is colder, the soil is rougher, and the horizon is tinged with the grandeur of the snow-capped peaks. The Prunus ceresoides blooms in pink tones that illuminate villages and paths in Nepal, Bhutan, and northern India, transforming austere landscapes into true canvases of serenity. For those who contemplate it, it is a reminder that beauty knows no borders. Even in remote and difficult-to-access regions, nature displays spectacles comparable to those of the most refined gardens. The interesting thing is that although it bears similarities to the sakura, it has a character of its own. Its flowers are smaller, and its branches seem to rise with a discreet pride towards the sky, as if conversing directly with the mountains. In many Himalayan villages, the arrival of its bloom marks the beginning of local celebrations and community rituals, where life is honored under the sign of renewal. In regional symbolism, this cherry is a bridge between the fragility of the flower and the strength of the landscape. Where winters are harsh and life requires resilience, its appearance becomes a metaphor for hope. Even in extreme conditions, beauty finds a way to flourish. In this way, after traveling through sacred, rare, giant, and tiny flowers, we close our journey with the Tibetan cherry, a jewel that unites the delicacy of the petal with the immensity of the mountain. A flower that, like all the others, reminds us that Asia holds an inexhaustible treasure of shapes, colors, and meanings in its natural diversity.